Thanks, Louise. Our last speaker is John Liccardi. John is the president of the Energize Vermont board. He's served as the chair of the state's Fish and Wildlife Board. After John speaks, we're going to open it up to questions, and you can ask questions of the panelists, and anybody from the audience is free to express their opinions on the questions, or just make comments if they would like to. We'll try and stick around and answer as many questions as we have. John?
Good morning and welcome everyone on behalf of the Energize Vermont. I'm very pleased to be a member of the board and also to be in on the ground floor of this statewide community effort. And as you've heard, that's exactly what it is. This is going to be a local community effort on a statewide basis to invite the development of renewable energy projects in a way that is in harmony with the state of Vermont. As Steve said, I was very fortunate to be chairman of the State Fish and Wildlife Board for 6 years. And I saw, and I was a part of, to say nothing of the time, the effort, and the expense that this state goes through to acquire and maintain natural resources, including wildlife habitat. And if we are going to bring renewable energy alternatives aboard, and we must, as I'm sure we all will agree, shouldn't we do it in a way that can assure that it is done in a manner that does not unnecessarily destroy wildlife habitat, pollute our streams and rivers, or forever alter the character of this state? Just to follow up on something that Paul said, if you've done any research at all about these wind turbines that are being proposed today, each one of them has a reservoir of oil that is between 800 and 900 gallons. And they're proposing to put those on your ridge lines. If anything should happen to one of those, oil, just like water, flows downhill. No one has proposed any kind of method to deal with that. And that's what we're looking at, kind of being overrun by this effort before we've had time to sit back and study and do some intelligent citing. So thank you all for being here. Please help yourselves to our pamphlet and our mission statement. And as Steve said, if there are any questions, we're here to try to answer them. Thank you again.
Thanks, John. So at this time, I'd like to open it up to any questions, or if anybody would like to speak, feel free to step forward. Come on. Must be some questions.
Does Representative Potter's bill have a number on it? Yep. And is it available online?
I have some copies here. It will be turned in at the end of the day, so it's not, in the official process yet. But 14 people have signed on to it. I do have some copies here to draft if you'd like one before you do it. But within a week or so, it should be out onto the floor for first reading.
Paul?
I'd just like to make a comment about one aspect of Representative Potter's bill, and that is the what I would call Community Enabling Act, so that they can actually effectively participate in these siting processes and in the regulatory Section 248 process that is supposedly user-friendly. I would tell you that in the case of the Sheffield Wind Project, Ridge Protectors, the town of Sutton, and the King George School have spent over $800,000, and most recently before the Environmental Court, nearly $100,000 to to effectively have an examination of these kinds of projects. So your proposal, which would provide money from the developer's perhaps escrow account, so that the 10-mile towns as well as the towns within which the proposal would be cited can effectively participate, is absolutely essential. Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Hi, I'm a property owner in the towns of Sutton and Sheffield, where the first wind project is proposed. I'm not a Vermont resident, it's a second home, it's an off-grid property, and I'm certainly an advocate of solar, which is what powers my home up there. I guess I'm confused a little bit by what I'm hearing, and I'm wondering if I might get a response to the thought. I'm also a wind developer. I happen to professionally be an advocate of installing what I consider to be commercial scale wind turbines because of the technical efficiencies of those pieces of equipment. And my company is focused on distributed generation because I fundamentally believe that in our economy it's important to balance supply and demand. And I don't think that large industrial developments in remote locations is what we need in this region. I think we need more distributed generation assets generating power in close proximity to where that power is utilized. And so I'm concerned because I hear that, put them far away and put them someplace where they're at least 2 miles from a residential structure. And I wonder if anybody's done an analysis to determine how many potential feasible sites that leaves within the state of Vermont. And if somebody can address consideration to distributed development, which is the most efficient, I believe we should be focusing on the most efficient renewable resources in the closest proximity to where that electricity is utilized.
And that would be not only wind, but
wind, solar, biomass, hydro. We have to do it all. We have a seemingly insatiable appetite for power in America. I mean, there's, I don't know what it is, how many gigawatts of electricity is consumed in Vermont on a given day, but we're not going to get there with solar, we're not going to get there with wind, we're not going to get there with hydro, we're not going to get there with biomass, we're going to get there with all of them. And so simply precluding one because of the perception that aggregating them together is the only way it can be done, I think is a misguided concept. So I'm wondering if
I'm not sure how big your distributive wind projects are, but this bill specifically excludes anything below half a megawatt. So if it's bigger than that, then...
Well, I guess I'm not talking about my project specifically. I'm not here advocating for myself. I'm curious to...
So, I think that would allow smaller wind turbines to go up that don't have the impacts that we're talking about here. And so it isn't, this bill isn't to totally squash all wind generation initiatives, but it's to protect against the large-scale wind turbine initiatives. And the other thing is, this bill isn't the end-all. This is a bill that presents a starting place for discussion, and you would hope that the Committee of Jurisdiction would take testimony that would fine-tune, the limits that we have discussed.
Is there a technical basis for the 1 1/4 or the 2 mile buffer zone based on acoustic analysis or otherwise?
No, there isn't, but it's based kind of on what I believe France is thinking about and experience in other places. However, the decibel limits at property boundaries and houses is based on technical information from Camperman and James. They have established some guidelines, and I would hope that those would be vetted in the committee.